It has been 10 weeks since the United States and Israel struck Iran on the 28th of February and killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Iran responded by closing the Strait of Hormuz. The United States imposed a naval blockade on Iranian ports on the 13th of April. 2 months in, the war has not ended. It has spread. This week brought three things. On Sunday, Trump announced Project Freedom, an operation to force the strait open with 15,000 troops and a fleet of destroyers. By Tuesday night, Trump put the operation on hold. He said Pakistan and other countries had asked for a pause. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi flew to Beijing the next morning. On the same day, the United States hit an Iranian oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman. Iranian forces fired back. American units pulled back from the area. The war broke its own ceasefire for the second time in 3 weeks. And Iran did something else this week. It set up the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. It is now charging tolls of up to $2 million per ship to cross. American gasoline has crossed $4.50 a gallon, 50% higher than the day before the war started. Look at how each of these moves fit together. Sunday, Trump announces 15,000 troops. Monday, the operation begins. Tuesday, Iran fires back. Tuesday night, Trump pauses. Wednesday, the Iranian foreign minister is in Beijing. That is 1 week. The most powerful country on earth started, fought, and paused a major military operation in 3 days, and the country mediating it was Pakistan. And the country that is the target flew to China. None of that was the script of this war when it started. Nobody could perceive that. Now think about why the strait still matters. About 1/5 of the world's oil moves through it. About 1/5 of the world's liquefied natural gas as well. Before this war, around 120 ships crossed every day. Last week, 40 ships crossed in 7 days. Iran has laid mines, used drones, used fast boats, used missiles. The merchant vessels have been damaged, and we are now over 1712 seafarers who are dead or missing. About 20,000 sailors are stuck in the Gulf on roughly 1,000 ships. And then there is a new toll system. Iran has now set up a body called the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. It is asking ships to register before they cross. It is charging fees that go up to $2 million per ship. Some Chinese ships, some Russian ships, some Indian, Pakistani, Malaysian, and Iraqi ships are getting through. Ships flagged American or Israeli are not. This is not normal under the international law or law of the sea. A country cannot turn an international strait into a permission gate. Iran is doing it anyway, and it is doing it because for 10 weeks, the United States Navy has not been able to stop it. That is the headline of the week. The war is still on. The blockade is still on. The pause is the third pause we have seen. And like the others, it could break. American gasoline is 50% higher. Saudi Arabia and Kuwait have, by some accounts, restricted access to American military bases. The European partners, the British, the French, the Germans are still talking about a multilateral mission and have not put one together. So the question is not who is winning anymore. It's irrelevant. The question is how much longer this can go on before something breaks that none of these countries can put back together. Let's talk to our guest. We have Robert Grenier with us. He's a writer and speaker focused on foreign affairs, Middle East, and counterterrorism, former director of CIA's Counterterrorism Center. Thank you so much, Robert, for joining us. I'm sure you're watching the situation closely in the Strait of Hormuz and the diplomacy related to it. Let's start with this week. Sunday, Project Freedom is announced. Tuesday night, it is paused. And then Wednesday, Iran's foreign minister is in Beijing, 8 days before President Trump is due there. What is your reading when an American operation rises and falls within 3 days? Is it White House recalibrating? Or is this the White House finding out the limits of what its own forces can deliver in these waters? How do you read it?
Well, I think it's just a mark of the general chaos that we're seeing in the situation overall, both the situation on the ground, the situation militarily and the diplomatic situation as well. But I think in this particular instance, this announcement of Operation Freedom, the reason that it was canceled almost as quickly as it was originally announced was because the Saudis, as we understand, pulled back their support. They were not particularly impressed with the sudden announcement of this operation. They weren't quite sure what it represented, and they said that they would not allow their airspace to be used in support of this operation. And I think it was for that reason that President Trump decided that he had to very quickly terminate it.
Wow. So do you think that whatever Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Pakistan, Iran, Beijing, all the countries are trying to resolve this issue around, President Trump is buying the argument from their side?
Well, I don't know if he's so much buying the argument from their side. I think there are a number of countervailing pressures that are working on President Trump. And let's remember that all politics primarily is local, and he's primarily focused on local politics within the United States. And he has two major problems there. One are rising oil prices at home, as reflected at the gasoline pump.
Yes.
Also, he has a difficulty with the U.S. Congress because the U.S. Congress is insisting that they should have the right to approve or disapprove of a continuation of this conflict. And so he's claiming that the conflict is essentially over. When he does that, though, that takes away a major lever of influence that he otherwise would have had over Iran. And so he's somehow trying to square those two.
It seems that the nuclear issue is now behind, and the first agenda on the table is the Strait of Hormuz. Do you think it is just the byproduct, a random thing that have come out of the war, or Iranians actually planned it, the weaponization of Strait of Hormuz? Because the whole debate around is building up that is that time when one nuclear power used to control the waterways, or there was a system that there is going to be no disruption in international waters at least. Is that changing? Because they have done it in Bab el-Mandeb as well. Right after taking the office, there was like 6-week operation that the US did along with the British, and they did not succeed in it. How do you look at it?
Well, I think that this whole issue of control over what were heretofore international waterways is an unintended byproduct of the U.S. attack. The right of passage through the Straits of Hormuz was never in question before.
Absolutely.
The Iranians obviously have imposed their control because this was their sole means of leverage over the United States and the wider international community. And of course, there's some threat at least to extend that to the Bab el-Mandeb if Yemen comes in support of Iran. So yes, this is very much an issue. And whatever is agreed between Iran and the United States, it's clear that for the rest of the world, a continued Iranian control over the Straits of Hormuz, and with the potential to maintain a tolling system in the Straits of Hormuz, will be completely unacceptable to the other powers, and particularly those in the
They're
Arab side
imposing it now.
They are imposing it now.
Yeah.
And as we know, there is a purported one-page agreement, which is now being discussed between Iran and the United States. And essentially, it attempts to do what the Iranians offered some days ago, which was roundly rejected by the United States at the time. And that is to separate the two issues, the opening of the Strait of Hormuz and the far more important nuclear issues. And so that the idea of this one-page agreement, if in fact it can come about, and we really don't know very many of the details at all, is that first you open the Straits of Hormuz, and then you have 30 days to deal with nuclear issues.
Right.
Well, and it's not at all clear under the terms of this supposed one-page agreement whether during that 30-day period Iran would be able to continue to impose its control over the traffic and to demand tolls. I think that they would claim that they had that right. Clearly, that would not be acceptable to the rest of the community, and we don't know where the United States stands.
Right. Look at the toll system. Now Iran has set up the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. Like, they have actually got a permission from their own parliament up to $2 million a ship This is not just a wartime measure to me. And do you think Iran is going to back off from this? Because of course there are sanctions. Of course they need something to get, the damage returns, the reparations they're asking for, the frozen assets. There is so much. The baggage is too big. And how I'm looking at it is that President Trump is not ready to give a major concession to Iran. So where is this stuck? And even if an MOU is signed, we all know an MOU is not a framework. It's not a deal. So are we coming back to a makeshift arrangement that, all right, let's do this, and then we will discuss the things later in detail?
Well, that's exactly right. As we know, particularly when we start getting into the nuclear issue, this is not simple. The JCPOA, the Iranian nuclear agreement, which was signed back in 2015, took almost 2 years to negotiate.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
These are very detailed agreements, and the Iranians are going to insist on a very detailed agreement. And so, as you said, this is just utter chaos. There's the best that can be hoped for right now is some sort of an interim arrangement that will create some space,
some opening at least,
serious negotiations. But again, it's very hard to know what to make of all this. And again, underneath all of it is the chaos of the U.S. approach as, again, President Trump tries to square irreconcilable pressures that are working on him. To maintain military pressure on Iran, while at the same time claiming to the U.S. Congress and to the oil markets that the hostilities are over.
Robert, this was clearly not an American war. And President Trump owned it completely. And one of his Truth Social posts, he said that we are here to teach a lesson to Iran for the inhuman things that they have done to humanity. So he keeps on changing his narrative on this war. We all know it is actually something that Israel wanted. How is he going to pull out of it? And what is the guarantee here that if he does, there is not going to be another Israeli pressure that he cannot say no to? Because in every meeting where negotiations are happening, in every room, Steve Witkoff is there, Jared Kushner is there, not the actual negotiators or diplomats.
Yeah, well, I think we need to be a little bit careful about this. It's very clear that President Trump can dictate to Israel when he wants to do it. He was talked into this apparently by the Israelis. He may be having some regrets right now, but he is still his own person in terms of how he moves forward. You're right. It's very difficult to exert control over the Israelis. They have very much their own interests, which they are pursuing, which in many instances are quite distinct from the U.S. interests that are at stake. But at this point, President Trump cannot simply walk away from this without
a deal or something.
Humiliation.
Yes.
At the end of the day, there has to be some sort of an agreement on the nuclear account, and something which the president can spin as a victory. Now, he can spin virtually anything as a victory, but he can't simply walk away without any restrictions on the Iranian nuclear program.
I agree with you when you say he's his own person. And one of the things that he wants is a better deal than JCPOA. Under such circumstances where there is an active conflict and blockades in place, do you think any deal which is that extensive and that detailed could be achieved in like 6 months? And I quote 6 months because it's just around the corner that the elections are happening, the midterm elections. And if he wants something in his hand to show his voters that he has got a good deal, what is he going to have? What is that going to be?
It's not at all clear because, as you say, these are very detailed agreements that have to be reached. They cannot be reached quickly. It's very hard to say how this is going to turn because there are so many countervailing pressures that are at work right now, and time is slipping away. And as you say, the U.S. Midterm elections are coming up. So one of the serious difficulties here is that we simply don't know what is in this one-page agreement.
Yeah. And it seems that when President Trump goes to China, maybe that is the point where some clarity comes out of it, because what Washington is telling Iran is the similar thing that China is going to tell Iran, but Iran might listen to China and not Washington. That's how complicated it is. Do you agree to this?
Well, I agree that China is losing its patience.
Yes.
China wants to see the straits opened. China is putting some of its own pressure on Iran to do that. But of course, they recognize that the Iranians are not going to do this in an open manner without extracting some sort of a cost. It is their sole means of leverage over the situation, and they're not going to give it up easily.
Right. Robert Grenier, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you on our show.